Good afternoon. Today's tutorial we are going to work on the 3-wedge shawl. There are maybe 2 or 3 patterns of this that I've seen out there. They're and I don't know why, because it's fairly easy to do. Once you see how it started, then you'll see how you can add different stitches into this and do it. The only difference you're going to see, you can use a granny stitch for this, but with the granny stitch, what you're going to see is instead of it creating like the half hexagon, it is going to be more of a square bottom. Your sides are going to be straighter. You won't see that hexagon, half a hexagon shape like you do with this type of shawl. And that's simply because of the nature of how many stitches you are putting in each corner that creates that difference. We'll do that shawl later on. We won't do it right now, but there'll be a tutorial on that, how to do that using the 3 wedges as well. For today's tutorial, I am going to use my Premier Sweet Roll Frosty in the color Strawberry Shortcake. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm not going to worry about color controlling it. However, for those of you that is an issue, by all means, color control. Use whatever yarn you want. You're going to use, doesn't matter if you use a 3-weight, 2-weight, 1-weight, whatever you want to use. You just want to make sure that you use a crochet hook that complements your yarn. Now, I am using a worsted weight. Worsted weight, I would suggest at least a J hook, K, L, M. The larger hook you could use, the more airier, the bigger, the better the drape that you're going to have. This one I used, I love this yarns. They're Stonewash in the purple, I think, or deep violet is what it's called. And I'm using a J hook with it. I have plenty of drape, of course. Keep in mind, I am not a tight crocheter. I am what I call a loose crocheter. So if you need something with a little more drape, you may want to use a hook size that is a little larger than a J. All right, let's get to the table and we'll get started. Okay, we are ready to start our half hexagon. This is also a 3-wedge shawl. I'm basically going to show you the way that you would do it for a double crochet shawl. You could use half double crochet, you could use extended, you could use herringbone, whatever your choice is. But I'm going to show you what the basic shawl is like. The only other thing that I will do is I will show you one variation to give it a little bit of difference in interest. Keep in mind, you can change up the stitches as you wish with this. Okay, now what I am going to do is I'm going to start with the magic ring, and I'm going to chain 3. You could chain 5 and join it into a slip stitch and then chain 3, but I prefer magic ring. Do whichever you prefer. So now you're going to put 2 double crochets into your ring, whichever type of ring you chose. Then you will chain 2, and you will place another 3 double crochets into that. Your chain 3 does act as a stitch throughout this entire pattern. Then you will chain 2 again, and you will put another set of 3 double crochets into your ring. And there you have the beginnings of your wedge shawl. It doesn't look like a whole lot right now, does it? All right, the second row, you will chain 3, and it does count as a stitch, and you will place a double crochet into this first stitch here. Then you will put a double crochet in each double crochet to your chain 2 space, and in your chain 2 space you will put a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. Now you're going to place double crochet in each of the stitches across to that chain 2 space again, where you will put a double crochet, chain 2, and another double crochet. Then you will place a double crochet in the next 3 stitches. Remember that your chain 3 was a first one. You'll place another one in the top of the chain 3, and then you will again place another double crochet into that same chain 3 space. You have just increased your stitches by 6. You have 1 here, 2 here, 2 and 2. That makes 6 stitches. Row 3, you will chain 3, and again you're going to put a double crochet into that first stitch. This is your increase. Then you will do a double crochet in each stitch across to your chain 2 space. Now I am assuming that you already know how to crochet. You are going to place a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet into your chain 2 space, and then you will do double crochets in each stitch across to the next chain 2 space. And then you will put a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet into your next chain 2 space. Then again, double crochet across each stitch. And 2 into the top of the chain 2 double crochets into that top of the chain 3 of the previous row. And there you have the very beginnings again. And now it still looks kind of squarish, but you'll see that it becomes a hexagon, half hexagon, fairly soon. Then you will again chain 3, place another double crochet into that first stitch, and then you will double crochet in each stitch across. Now the next row that we do, we're going to repeat this row 3 as many times as you want. You could do the entire shawl that way. If you choose to use a half double crochet, the only thing is you're substituting a half double crochet instead of a double crochet. But you are going to continue to place a double crochet in each stitch, and then in each chain 2 space you will place a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. And then in your very last chain 3 of the previous row, you'll place 2 double crochets. Now, if you would like to do a lace row, it will be a little different. You can start to see where it's starting to fill out and become a little more of that half hexagon this way. You will chain 4 if you're choosing to do a lace stitch. You're not going to place another stitch in this one. This counts as a chain 3 and a chain 1. You're going to skip this first stitch and then you will do a double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, double crochet in the next, chain 1, skip, double crochet into the next, chain 1, you'll skip this one, double crochet into the next, chain 1, and you are now at your chain 2 space. In the chain 2 space, you will place a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. Then you will chain 1. From here, you're going to skip this next one because you did it here. Whatever you do here, you're going to do here. You'll skip this next stitch because you've already got your chain 1, then double crochet into the next stitch. Chain 1, skip the next, then double crochet into the next. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, double crochet into the next. You will repeat that again until you get to your chain 2 space. Okay, that changed the battery. You've gotten to your chain 1, you've gotten to the chain 2 space. Now you will place a double crochet, chain 2, and another double crochet. Then you will chain 1, you will skip this next stitch, you will do a double crochet into the next, chain 1, skip the next double crochet, chain 1, and let me get some yarn here. Then you will skip the next stitch, double crochet. You'll skip the next, do a double crochet, chain 1, and then you will place 1 double crochet into that last top of the chain 3 of the previous row. Now, you can repeat this row if you want, just placing your double crochets a little differently. So let me show you how that would do. You're going to chain your 4. You're not going to place it in this one, but you will place it here. And then you would do your chain 1 and then a double crochet in the chain 1 spaces for this second row if you chose to do the lace pattern. Because you are chaining 1 and skipping 1. Then when you get to your corner with the chain 2, you're going to place that double crochet, chain 2, and another double crochet. Oops. And then it would be a chain 1. And then you again would skip this first one here and double crochet into the chain 1 spaces. That is how you would do the lace work if you're going to continue with doing more of the lace work. And you continue that across until you got back to your chain 2 space, where you again would place a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, and then you would chain 1. You would go into this chain 1 space, double crochet, chain 1, all the way back until you get to the last 2 stitches. Here the only difference is you would chain 1 and then you would find the top of the chain 3 and place another double crochet. Now, if you wanted to go back to the solid from here, because this really does make a nice look if you do a couple of rows of lace and then your solid rows, then again you would chain 3 and go back into that first stitch, double crochet, and then you're going to put a double crochet in each chain 1 space and each double crochet across until you get to your center point. Well, I call it center point. I guess it's not a center point since it's a 3 wedge shawl. Until you get to your chain 2 space. We are at the chain 2 space, so we're going to put a double crochet in it, chain 2, another double crochet in it. Then we would double crochet into the next stitch and each chain 1 space across to the next chain 2 space. And of course, when we get to our chain 2 space, again we will place a double crochet and a chain 2 in it. And then again, we'll begin again to put a double crochet in each double crochet at the previous row and each chain 1 space. Now remember, this has a chain 1 space in it, so you will place one there, and then again in the top of the chain 3 space, you will place 2. And there you have how you're going to build this shawl up. Now, you can change up the stitches as you choose. You could do cross stitches, you could do bobble stitches, you could do puff stitches. The only thing is you may have to, when you get here to these spaces, fudge, because of the way that you are choosing to space those stitches out. If you are doing the cross stitch, you should be fine. Yeah, and that is basically all there is to this 3 wedge shawl, is to remember you need to increase on the ends here, and you need to increase 2 stitches in those 2 corners. And that's it, guys. You know, we can do all kinds of stitches with this. We can change it up 100,000 ways. You could do several rows of the lace. You could do just all solid, Like I said, you can do a half double crochet, you could do it in herringbone. Sky's the limit with this shawl. And that is something when you are learning shawl shapes, once you understand where the increases need to be, you can use practically any stitch in a shawl. But like I said, there may become times where you have to fudge it because you don't have enough stitches here. You just got to remember that if you fudged it here, you've got to fudge it here as well. That is my best advice for that. So continue this and we'll see where we got next week. Now, like I said, the sky is the limit with these stitches that you can do. As an example, let's do a cross stitch for this next row. Chain 3. Instead of going into this one, we'll go into the next. Then we will cross over and come back into this stitch. We have increased there. Then you'll skip the next and do this cross stitch all the way to the chain 2 space. Again, that cross stitch is skipping the next stitch, placing a double crochet, then coming back and crocheting over that stitch through the one you skipped. Skip this, double crochet, go back into the stitch you skipped, place double crochet, skip the next, double crochet, then skip the next, the double crochet, same thing all the way to your chain 2 space. Now on this row, we've got 1 stitch left. However, because we're doing a cross stitch, we will increase here, then come back and go in the stitch we skipped. Then chain 2. We will skip this chain for now, go into this next stitch, then come back over and cross back into the chain 2 space, place our cross stitch. Skip the next, double crochet in this stitch, cross over into the stitch you skipped and place a double crochet. You're just going to repeat that till you get to your next chain 2 space. Now, if you don't want to have cross stitches in your corner, in your chain 2 spaces, you could simply just do a double crochet here, then do your increase as normal. But I'm going to try to see how this works out. And sometimes that's what it's all about, seeing how it works out, because if it doesn't work out, you can always frog it, rip it right back. Now see here, we've gotten to a place where we're not going to be doing the same thing in this corner. So you can choose to rip back to this corner and go back into doing a double crochet into this first one, then a double crochet into this, or you could simply choose to increase and do your chain 2. Increase. And then skip the next, do your crossover. It is completely dependent on you what you choose to do. I'm going to do it this way just to see what happens when it comes to the end. And I may rip it back and decide to do something totally different. But this is how you would change up your stitches. Use some of the stitches you know. And like I said, basically, just figure out what works and what doesn't. And those of you who make up your patterns as you go, you'll completely understand what I'm talking about, because you do this already on your own. Now see, I've gotten here to this last stitch, and I don't have a crossover stitch for the last one. I would have to put 2 double crochets into this one to finish it off, which, you know, I'm okay with that. That doesn't bother me a bit, and I'll tell you why it doesn't bother me a bit. People who don't know crochet, they're not going to notice this. If you have to have symmetry, complete symmetry, by all means, rip it back and let's do that. Let's do that with this now. Let's rip it back to this corner where it got a little off. And I guarantee you, people who design patterns, they will do a lot of this. Now we've ripped back. We don't have another place to put our cross stitch, so we're going to put a double crochet into this next stitch. Then we'll place double crochet, chain 2 into our chain 2 space, and another double crochet. Since we've already put a double crochet here, we're going to do the same right here. Now we will begin the cross stitch and see where it leads us. So we'll place a double crochet and then we'll do the cross stitch. Skip 1, double crochet, come back, put a double crochet into the stitch you skipped. Slipped, skipped. So when we do that, on this bottom row, we actually get what we had thought we would get, is that cross stitch right there. But then again, if you're into symmetry, that will drive you nuts. But in your chain 2 space, then we'll place another double crochet, chain 2, another double crochet. Now let's see what happens if we do the cross stitch over the next stitches. We'll skip 1, then place our double crochet. The one we skipped, skip the next, double crochet, crochet in the one we skipped, skip, double crochet back into that one we skipped, I'll skip, double crochet in the one we skipped, and that would leave us putting 2 double crochets into that last stitch. So you see, you are able to work this. But if you're writing out a pattern, that might be difficult for you to express what you're doing to whoever you're writing the pattern for. But if you're doing it for yourself, you may be okay with this. And then of course you could just go back to your regular, double crochet, increasing here, putting your double crochets in all the way around. And then occasionally doing a lace row or a couple of lace rows. So yeah, that is it in a nutshell. I hope you did enjoy this. I hope that you'll play, experiment, and just enjoy the process of creating something different for yourself. And you'll see this becomes more and more like a half hexagon because you do have the 3 wedges. Next week, what I will do is I will show you what I came up with on this, but I will also do it with a granny stitch. So I hope you'll come back next week. We'll play a little bit. That's the whole fun of this creating something new is playing. And the good thing is crochet is pretty forgiving. So if you don't like the way it looks, rip it back, do something different. All right, guys, see you again next week. Bye.